What's going on, guys? How are we doing? So, I'm coming at you with my Subterror Guru controlled deck profile. This is the deck that I elected to take to my little local UDS Qualifier tournament thingo. I went 3-1 in Swiss, and then, I got second place. My only loss in the finals was obviously to the guy that beat me playing Should All Dino. I have his profile if you want to look at it up on my channel. The man super polys my Guru and Giant Rex away for Mud Dragon. 1,000 IQ plays, but with that out of the way, let's go ahead and get right into it. This is definitely a different deck from the decks I usually play. If you notice on my channel, usually I play a lot more combo. So, starting off, triple copies of Subterror Guru. This is the heart and soul of the deck. The flip effect is you add a Subterror card from deck to hand, and then once per turn you can target another face-up monster on the field, change both it and this to face-down defense. So, what this allows is basically Book of Moon. It turns into a quick effect if you control another face-up Subterror card. So, Book of Moon is really, it gets schlepped on, dude. Like, especially against Salamangreat. If you flip down their normal summon, unless they have Will or an extender like that, they just kind of have to pass their turn. So, heart and soul of the deck. It's the reason why it's called Guru Control. Next, triple copies of Fiendus. This is the effect negator person thingo. So, you can send this from hand or field to the grave to negate an activated card or effect, and then flip a Subterror you control face down. So, this acts as basically Judgment, kinda. And then it also has a neat little Monster Reborn effect, where you can target a monster you control, flip it face down, and special Subterror from hand or grave. So, if Guru gets destroyed or whatnot, you can always use this to bring it back and extend your plays, or make, one of the 3 link monsters that you run. So, this is really solid, really solid. No reason not to play 3. Next off, we have 1 copy of Nemesis Archer and 1 copy of Umastrix. These are both very niche and very situational, but you still play them because they're searchable and they're all really good. So, if you control another Subterror monster, Nemesis Archer, if it battles a face-down defense position monster, it'll shuffle it into the deck before damage step. So, especially after you flip something down with Guru, it's nice to just kind of kick it to the deck, because aside from face-down banished, getting stuff back out of the deck is probably the second most annoying place to try to retrieve your cards from, so that's cool. And then if it's destroyed by battle or card effect and sent to the grave, it'll special Subterror from your deck. So you can either get to your Guru if you don't have it, or you can get to this guy. This guy's flip effect lets you target a monster your opponent controls and banish it, so it acts as removal. And then it special summons itself from hand if a monster you control is flip face down, and you control no face-up monsters. That is a win effect though, so it can occasionally miss timing. I found myself siding this out every now and then. Once per turn, it also flips itself face down to make itself live. Next off for the hand traps, because we want to be more oppressive. We have triple copies of Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. I'm not going to chew your ear out about what this card does, Negates the searches, negates the summons, negates the foolish burials. It's Ash Blossom, you gotta play 3, especially in a deck like this. Triple copies of Ghost Bell and Haunted Mansion. Now, this is the only point of contention I had with the deck overall, because every game that, I had this, that I lost, I would have won if this were DD Crow. But this still put in heavy work, and it still is pretty clutch. It negated stuff like Kagari, things like that. It's basically a Necro Valley. Whenever anything would move cards from the grave to anywhere else, this can negate it. And it negates activations. So, Ghost Bell is not to be slept on. Although, I'm not sure how I feel about it over DD Crow. Off to the spells, we have triple copies of the Hidden City. Shout out to my boy Trevor for hooking me up with the secret rares. They look really pretty. So, this is a key part of the deck. Once per turn, you can flip a Subterror monster, a face-down Subterror monster you control face up, and on activation it adds the Subterror. So it gets you to your Guru and lets you switch with your Guru immediately. So very important. And then if your opponent's monster declares an attack, you can flip a face-down Subterror face up to negate the attack, and then trigger more effects. So Guru's really solid. In a deck like this with a bunch of flip monsters, there's nothing more you could really want in a field spell. And obviously we play one terraforming because Hidden City is so good. You want to be able to search it out, so nothing more to say about that. I was so sad when this got semi-limited, and then limited. I was so sad. Like, almost cried. Favorite search card in the game. 1 copy of Cave Clash. This is really situational, and depending on your matchup, you may search this over Fiendus. So, what this essentially does is turn Screw into a quick effect, because it's a face-up Subterror card. So if you search this instead of Fiendus, you're essentially trading hard negation for a Book of Moon. And against some matchups, that's enough to just flat out win you a game. Like, Salamangre, if you flip their normal summon face down, they just kind of have to pass if they don't have will, you know what I mean? It also has a neat little attack boosting effect, and a neat little recursion effect. When you do battle damage, it just lets you grab a Subterror from grave, so it helps in the grind game, especially with a deck like this. Fiendus is so oppressive. Triple copies of Cosmic Cyclone. These were, in my original build, these were Veilers, but I found that back row is prevalent enough in this format to where Cosmic Cyclones are kind of necessary. So, pay a stack to banish it. I'll screw with those recycling spells and traps and stuff. Double copies of Pot of Extravagance. I only have 2 because I could not afford a third one, but you know, what are you gonna do? Old poor boy over here with the only double extravagance, whatever. But you don't use your extra deck at all, so you have nothing to fear by activating one of these. And a lot of times they'll ash this, which means your city's gonna go uninterrupted, and your Guru's gonna go good, you know? So, draw power, Pot of Greed. Triple copies of Duality. It's just such a good card. It lets you dig for your side deck cards, dig for your floodgates, dig for like Judgment, stuff like that. And it helps with the consistency, you know? Because you kind of got to see Guru to win, you know? That's your win condition. So, if you don't see it, you kind of bust. You got to kind of wait to draw into it, which isn't a problem because you play so much Disruption, but at the same time, you got to see Guru. So, triple copies of Duality. Even if I get a third copy of Extravagance, this will remain at 3, and that is a fact. Next off for the traps. 2 copies of Final Battle. A lot of people debate, you know, the Subterror players, they'll debate whether 2 or 3 is correct. And I think that 2 is correct. I've been playing with, I played with 3 at first, but after trying out 2, I'm really liking it. You'll want to search this out. If you already have the Fiendus, you already have the Cave Clash, you already got whatever, you want to search this out because this card is nuts. It has like 4 effects, and then it resets itself after you're activating it, so it's really cool. Lets you flip a Subterror face up or face down, make a Subterror big, or it lets you keep your activated Subterror cards and effects from being negated. So, depending on the situation, just activate one of the effects and win the game. At the point where you have 2 of these, you're probably winning, which is why I don't feel a third is necessary. 3 copies of Solemn Judgment. It's at 3. We're playing a control deck. There's no reason not to play 3 Judgment. It's so good, just being able to pay half your life points and say no to anything your opponent tries to do. I wish I had a third Secret Rare because they look so pretty, but it's whatever. There's no reason not to play triple copies of that. Triple copies of Crackdown. Crackdown is pretty good in this deck in theory. In practice, I'm not so sure though, because it kind of underperformed on Saturday, but it was still pretty cool. You can, if you steal anything that isn't a Link monster with this, you can flip it with Guru and then you get to keep it just indefinitely, because this has to continually target the monster it's stealing. So once it gets flipped face down, the game no longer recognizes how it was taken, so when you flip it back face up, it becomes yours. This doesn't go away, it becomes a dead card on field, but the monster is still yours. To activate the effects, you know, attack with it, do whatever. So if you steal something with like negation, well then you're in a good spot. Triple copies of There Can Be Only One. This deck is a really slow deck, and so you want to slow them down to your pace, and this is probably the best floodgate to do it right now. I would go so far as to say that There Can Be Only One is one of the best floodgates in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And aside from stuff like Skill Drain, Soul Drain, you know, stuff like that. But probably one of the strongest because a lot of decks are monotype, so max out on that, and it doesn't really hurt you. For the last 2 traps, 2 impermanents. Same thing with Extravagance. I couldn't afford a third one, so it's whatever. But this thing came in clutch. It's really cool. A funny thing, dude. Like, I actually negated a Pot of Desires with this by chaining it it was in the same column, so I was able to negate one. It's way too that's way too funny. I hate having to cheese people like that, but if you can like negate a monster effect and a spell or trap effect, that's value. So, all right, for the extra deck, go through this nice and quick. It's all super poly targets, and most of it's filler. Triple copies of Starving Venom. It's one of the most important ones. Just takes 2 darks. The effect, I couldn't even tell you offhand what it does, but it's really nice to have. It's out to problem boards. Double copies of Dragostopelia, Predaplant Dragostopelia. It takes a fusion monster and a dark monster, so it's mainly for like stuff like Pendulum and Pure Thunder, because you know you want to max out on your chances of being able to outboards even with Extravagance. That's 5. The next one will be 6. So 6, cards to out a Pure Thunder board. So, which is one of the main boards I'm worried about, because if you can't search with Guru and stuff, you're kind of, I don't want to say fucked, but yeah, you're fucked. And then the one Predaplant Trifovertium, whatever the fuck you call it. It takes 3 darks. And this one's crazy. If you actually resolve Super Poly and get this on board with 3 of the monsters, you're probably winning, because this thing can also negate a summon from the extra deck. So it's pretty nutty. 2 copies of Violet Chimera for Salamangreats. I'm not entirely sure how I feel about Super Poly in that matchup, but it's still nice to have, and like I said, you don't care about your extra deck. 2 copies of Muddragon of the Swamp. It's probably especially good against Rogue over anything else, since a lot of the meta decks, at least right now, don't have a lot of game states where you can successfully Super Poly their stuff into Muddragon, but it's still really nice. It can protect your stuff from targeting if you call Earth, so that's cute. 1 copy of Rampage Dragon and 1 copy of Dragon Necro Nether Fuck Dragon thing. I didn't run into any Cyber Dragon, but I wasn't going to discount the possibility, so I thought I might just include that. This, however, I did not think whatsoever I'd come across any zombie-esque decks, and I didn't. And this should have been a Dingrisu, because Crackdown, Galatea, slap it all on top, you know the deal. But I couldn't get one, for the day, so I had to settle for this. And like I said, the extra deck doesn't matter because of Extravagance, so it was filler. But if I did play any kind of zombie world kind of deck, I'd make them cry. Next off, for the only 3 Link monsters we play: Linkuriboh, Phoenix, and Avermax. So Linkuriboh you can make with your Fiendus, and Phoenix you can make with crackdown monsters, and Phoenix and Guru and whatnot. And I found that in testing, that this was the easiest thing to make off of stuff you crack down, because if you crack down a Link 2, you make Phoenix and then go into Avermax, or if you crack down a Link 3, you make this with Fiendus and then go into Avermax. So Avermax is just pretty strong. It's a big untargetable booty, so it's pretty nice. Back row removal, Linkuriboh. And since I did do well in the tournament, I suppose for the one time I will give you insight into my side deck. Although, just to be clear, my side deck choices are never great. They're never horrible, but they're never great. So, 2 Nibiru for the combo decks. I don't like triple Nibiru. Even in like other decks, I would only side 2, because opening up with more than 1 is kind of annoying, if we're being completely honest. But if you resolve Nibiru against a combo deck, you make them cry, you win the game, Not much to say about it. Tribute all their stuff away, give them a token. And especially if you can remove the token, then it doesn't really matter that the token is big, Triple copies of Pankratops for going second. It's a rogue killer, it's really cool, and it's really strong. The 2600 body is nice and all, and being able to distribute it to pop cards it's way too good to pass up. Especially for slower decks like this. In bigger combo decks, I try to veer away from having Pankratops, because you can always just out the board by making a big monster, making a monster to do what Pankratops does. But in slower decks, I feel like Pankratops is necessary to help break boards, since going second is inherently tough for stuff like Altergeist, for Striker, for Subterror, decks like that. So Pankratops is cool. 3 copies of Lancia for your Orchist, for your Thunder Dragon, for anything that would banish. Then you have Lancia to help you out. Keeping your opponent from banishing cards is way too good, and I play 3 because I'm a smart player, somewhat. I'm still pretty dumb. We have triple copies of Super Poly to out combo boards, you know. I just got done showing you my big-ass extra deck full of fusion monsters, and they're all for this guy. I don't think it's necessary to main right now. In fact, I strongly advise against it. The format's not solved enough to the point where you can main deck this comfortably and know you can resolve it a whole bunch of times. But it's still an option that's there, an option that you have. So I only resolved it once this weekend, and it wasn't as cute as you think. So it's good, don't get me wrong, just it underperformed for me. 3 copies of MST. Now, in testing, I found that Striker is one of my worst matchups. So naturally, Twin Twisters is a bad idea, since the only thing I'm comfortable discarding for in this deck is something that outs a board of 2+ monsters. But then I remembered that I have to figure out a way to beat Striker. So my answer, I already have Cosmics in the main, so I'm going to side MST, and I'm also going to side Pankratops. So if I side in these and Pankratops, I have 9 cards for just picking away at quick play spells. Just, you know? So it did really well. I played against Striker, and the game plan went exactly according to plan. So MST was really cool. And then for the final card, I wasn't sure what to play, so I threw a Necro Valley. And Necro Valley, in theory, it's supposed to be really good. Except I didn't see it. But if I had seen it, it would have been a blowout. This thing stops a lot of combo decks, including Orchist, which I hear is pretty good right now. So Necro Valley is definitely something that, if your deck can incorporate it, I highly recommend it. Especially since I'm playing Terraforming, it's like having 2 copies, and with the Extravagance and the Potted Dualities, the chances of me seeing this are higher than you think. So that would do it for my Guru deck profile. My matchups were really weird. I played Evil Swarms game 1, and I kind of swept them. I played against like Shadal Dino, which I won in Swiss, and then I lost in the finals. I have the deck profile up for you to watch if you're interested. I played against Striker, which I beat, and then I played against my only loss in Swiss was to Orchist Striker, which I don't even feel bad about because that deck is just super fucking stupid. But anyways, that'll do it for my profile. If you guys liked what you saw, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Peace out.